We're talking about reinventing tea and coffee in the age of the smart kitchen. This is the coffee bot versus the tea bot. And so I'm really excited for this caffeinated smackdown. And it's moderated by my good friend, Mr. Surj Patel of Sharp. Please welcome our next panel to the stage.
So yes, as Chris said, we'll be discussing tea and coffee, two things which have been the cornerstone of many rituals and many cultural rituals around the world. And so when Mike Wolf asked me to moderate this panel, I was like, okay, how do we improve upon an express kettle? How are we going to do that? And so I started doing some research, and actually I came across a quote. Are we familiar with Wilson Rothman, the food critic from Wall Street Journal? Hands up. No? Not heard of him? You heard of him. Okay, a few have. Okay, great. So a quote about Alan's machine, which he's going to tell us about, is, if I were running a specialty tea shop or a Michelin-starred restaurant, I would buy 6. So with that, gentlemen, what on earth are you creating? And that's getting this kind of response. So please tell us a little bit about yourself and your product that brought you here today.
Sure. So first of all, thank you for the opportunity to be here. I think there's wonderful people here. Michael put up a great event. My name is Alan Hahn. I'm the founder, CEO of Teforia. We are basically reinventing what the tea experience is and should be.
Okay, do you want to tell a little bit more about the machine?
Sure. So the machine, we actually have a functional demo back there. So if you're more than welcome to come visit us, we'll make you the best cup of tea ever. Basically, what we look at is, tea actually the process of making tea hasn't evolved whatsoever since they discovered tea 5,000 years ago. So if you think about 5,000 years, that's a long, long time. In the culinary world, everything has changed in 5,000 years, right? Even like 500 years ago, people think Earth was flat, right? Earth was center of the universe. So why not tea, right? Why not tea? Tea should go through that evolution in which like both coffee, wine, even beer, right? Went through the tremendous amount of innovation in the past couple of years in which the product or the machine or the process in which bring out the most flavorful flavor, right? The essence of those products into consumers' hand. So that's what Teforia is about, and that's what we're trying to do.
So Alan, what inspired you to go after tea and make a machine for tea?
You know, in the past couple of years, right, there's that great third wave of coffee going on. You can walk in pretty much any coffee shop now and order a personalized crafted coffee. So I was working for a big company. One of my friends, a coffee drinker, said, hey, you know what? There's a great shop that opened up. They craft the most amazing coffee, right? I'm sure for you, they could do a tea just like that, right? So I went to the shop. I was all pumped to get an awesome, perfect cup of tea for me. I walked back to the barista. I just saw how they served my friend's perfect cup of coffee. They turned around. I ordered this black tea. They turned around, grabbed a paper cup, filled with hot water, satchel, that was it. Right? Where's my perfect cup? I paid the same amount. I'm totally gypped, right? I'm sure all the tea drinkers out there, right? You feel that. And also one thing, so that actually got me really started on looking at the market. Turns out tea is actually double the size of the tea market globally. Tea is 90 billion. This comes from direct quote from Howard Schultz, our neighbor right down the street. He quoted that when he bought Tivana. Right, even in the U.S., so I did a little bit deeper dig, right? Turns out America in 2013 spent $28 billion on coffee. They spend roughly around $26 billion on tea. So man, tea is absolutely the biggest underserved market in the whole U.S. You just don't know, right? So we're here to basically make sure you know and basically open your eye on what tea should really, really taste like.
Alan, I get it. You care about tea. That's good.
Absolutely.
That's clear.
Absolutely.
Okay.
My mom told me, right, if you're going to do something, do it well.
Good advice from your mom. Good advice. All right, Deepak, tell us about your machine and what was the story behind you getting into coffee then?
Well, I came at this from a bit of a technology background. I mean, I'm a PhD laser physicist and been working in technology for a long time, especially in very complex hardware. And we looked at coffee. I mean, I got into it as a consumer. I mean, there's high-end coffee now that is just a wonderful experience, yet it's done in a very sporadic way in different coffee shops, but it's not universal. So we decided we could do something better. And so what we created is a machine that roasts, grinds, and brews every single cup personalized to you. Now, let's go through those steps again. So roasting has always been done in an industrial setting, in some warehouse 1,000 miles away from you, where they do 1,000 pounds at a time minimum. Now, we're roasting on a kitchen countertop machine in real time, controlled from an app that allows you to bring a wine-like drinking experience to coffee. So all the sophistication, flavors, and nuances and terroir that you're familiar with wine actually exist in coffee. There are 3 times the number of aromatic compounds that create taste of coffee than in wine. But the vast majority of the public doesn't know that. So we're bringing that new experience to coffee. And it's the world's best coffee machine.
Okay. So world's best coffee machine, world's best tea machine, even from the supercritical Wilson Rothman. How much are we talking about? You know, products are all about products, positioning, and price. So what's the price here?
So our product is MSRP of $1,300. We just launched last Thursday. Right now there's a special going on, early adopters, $649, and also for you folks right here, we have a special promo code if you use. It's basically Teforia loves SKS. You get another $50 off. That's probably the best deal
Now
in
you've got a
town.
machine at the back, right? So
Yeah, we got a
come up
machine
and
in the
try it
back.
out.
It's a functional engineering model. You basically get a machine just like that, more polished, and you can go taste it for yourself.
Okay. And Deepak, what about your machine?
So we're starting with a commercial machine that'll be in the price point of espresso machines that are used in restaurants, cafes, and companies. You know, very high-end espresso machines go up to $20,000 each. We're much less than that, but we're still not in the espresso machine price range. And then we have a home machine coming next year that'll be in the home espresso machine range, which is $1,000 to $2,000.
Okay, so gentlemen, you're still talking about a hefty investment for a kitchen appliance for what is ostensibly become a commodity beverage. So are you taking the angle that you're uncommodifying the beverages of tea and coffee into much more experiences, or, you know, and
Yes.
how do you take your machine with you if it's that expensive or not?
So I think I can jump into that. So, you know, yes, you know, the price point is a little bit high, but at the same time, if you walk into, you know, a potential partner like, you know, Amazon or even Williams Sonoma, right, you look at a high-end espresso machine, right,
Yeah.
it's anywhere range from $1,000 to even $9,000, right? So it's very comfortable in that range, but at the same time, I think the benefit that, for example, our machine, we have the capability to actually fine-tune an amount of caffeine extraction. So a lot of folks are sensitive to caffeine. Our machine could do up to 62% less caffeine extraction, right? We actually unlock a whole bunch of flavor that you have never even tasted before. That's why we get tons and tons of great press coverage. Like one of the quotes that we got from Food and Wine, right? This is the best way to make tea, period. Right? You know, this is not just us talking about. We get all these critical food critics, wine critics to basically vouch for what we do.
Okay.
Right?
Okay. So while we're in the green room, somebody was saying that actually the guy behind the Nespresso is here somewhere today. So, and that was actually a very innovative business model and experience. It provided a great coffee experience, you know, beautiful industrial design, and then the convenience of these little cups and stuff. Now, we're looking at connected products here, smart kitchen products, smart connected products. So can you talk a little bit about how that connectivity affects the experience around tea and coffee, and then also how it affects your business model? And actually, Deepak, do you want to start on that one?
Yeah, actually, so I mean, I think there's multiple ways of thinking about connectivity, and it's been talked about here all day, actually, in various ways. One is connectivity within the home, but the other thing is connectivity to the outside world, and connectivity here actually can bring the outside world to your kitchen. It's really about that farm-to-table experience, and in our case, the farm-to-table experience for coffee. We're talking about connectivity to the farmers that make those, that grow those beans, and they come from probably 50 different countries around the world, and many of them are developing countries, and these are subsistence farmers, but there's a story behind that bean that you're drinking. And we're talking about single origin beans. We're talking about creating that farm-to-table experience so you can understand not only the flavors and the unique nuances of each coffee, but where that comes from.
Okay, so you're talking more about almost like a media or educational experience rather than just a cup of joe.
Well, yes, it is an experience, actually, and that's that experience you want to create. Now, the connectivity that we've talked about collectively here earlier in the day, that will happen too, but there's a second part of connectivity, and we should be cognizant of that.
Okay. Now, Alan, you've got an interesting business model around supplying the tea and doing the whole Nespresso thing there, right? Okay, so you want to talk a little bit about that and how the
Sure.
connectivity is affecting the business model?
Yeah, definitely. So in some way, I'm going to tag on to what Deepak said because that's actually very, very powerful, right? Because the overall macro movement around food is, farm to table, right? So for tea, basically what we call estate to cup, right? We want to actually bring that story, who actually made that tea, right? Put you really in touch on the impact of the world, right? Impact of the environment, impact of weather on how the tea flavor is, right? So we provide that connectivity, so you get to do that where the tea comes from. But at the same time, Teforia is a platform. You actually can fine-tune the recipe for your liking. Each tea that we provide actually will have the perfect recipe, but you can fine-tune your recipe to your liking. Same thing, and also one major difference between us and Espresso is we actually open system. You can absolutely use your own tea. It's not our goal. Our goal is to give you the best way to make your tea, right? So you can basically craft it. You buy this, because tea for us very much is a journey, right? You go around, travel, you buy different tea, you sample different flavor, you sample different foods. You want to bring it home, you want to do it on a Teforia machine, right? You figure out a recipe, you can publish it to the community. Other folks around the world, like my mom, she loves tea, but she doesn't know how to make it. I can craft the perfect recipe and share it with my mom. Right, she will basically just download that, automatically will push it over to the machine. She will make the perfect tea. Then we can sit down via iPad, FaceTime, right? We can share a cup of tea, right? And say, hey, mom, do you like that flavor? Do you taste that?
Okay, now, obviously, $1,000 machines, they're not going to be portable in your bag, so you can't take your perfect cup of tea with you. But the implication here, which they're connected, is you can take the recipes with you. Do you want to talk a little bit about that and how that affects the consumer experience, especially when they travel?
Yeah, actually, I mean, that connectivity of the recipe, I mean, and it was just discussed earlier today, is that the recipes can travel with you, meaning that with our machine, there'll be machines at coffee shops, there'll be at hotels, there'll be at restaurants, and they'll be at your office, as well as home. So you could spend time at home developing your personalized recipe, and since it's cloud connected, it travels with you, meaning that whenever you show up at a restaurant or a hotel, you could have the Sumatra Toba Batak to the exact taste profile that you desired at home. And those beans, another thing about green coffee beans is they don't spoil. So now you have a commodity that you've taken from a perishable to an imperishable that can travel and stay. So.
Now, Alan, I mean,
Absolutely
tea
right.
is so steeped in culture. Is that going to fly?
Well, I think it actually will fly. We've been working with tea farmers and also tea experts for the past 3 years. What's challenging about tea is because it's very steep in tradition. So a lot of brand new tea drinker, novice tea drinker are very hesitant to do that, right? Because they know, okay, this got this tradition, got that tradition, right? But what we actually done is we're actually, first of all, we're students of tea, right? We never call ourselves tea master, right? Because we want to actually learn about the history, how tea actually developed through time, and how people use technology at the given time to produce the best quality of tea. So if you actually, when you have a chance to go look at our demo, we actually celebrate the tea making process. We put the complete tea infusion right in front of you. You actually become mesmerized by it, right? Because we actually talk to over 300 tea drinkers when we're going through this development process. Number one thing, regardless of what process they do, even use the tea bag, do the dip, pull, or using the traditional tea method, they always come back to you. Part of the reason they do that is reflection, right? Sense of peace, right? So how do we balance that with technology? Is why we basically, Teforia walk a really fine line, which we provide the convenience of technology, we provide the knowledge base of technology, but at the same time, we also put the ritual back. So you can see how the tea dances in the water. You see how tea actually expands, right? It's something that a lot of people don't get to see. Right, we put that front and center, so we put the tradition, the ritual right in front of you. So you actually get to be part of that ritual versus just like an operator machine.
All right, I'm going to take the conversation a little bit slightly back to sort of, there's a lot of product people, a lot of business people here. Yes. One of the fundamental questions I've got to ask is still, I'm maintaining $1,000 is a lot of money. So how long before you get to a mass market price point?
So basically, we follow very much like a Tesla model. Right, there's a lot of failed tea product before us, right? I have tons of that at home, right? I'm sure tea audience tea drinker in the audience have probably a lot of failed tea product at home, right? So our goal was to make the best tea machine, period, right? Because that's something that we can always stand back, right? And over time, just like Tesla, they come up with a roaster, $130,000. Not a lot of people can afford it, but over time, technology will get cheaper. That's always what we can count on. Technology will be cheaper. So over time, we'll have something that's more consumer friendly.
Deepak, you want to?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that model of starting out at the high end and working your way down. We'll have a mass market machine in 2017 for sure, but I think it is fair to say that you want to create that wonderful experience first and have the capability to do it and at a price point that makes sense. Right?
Okay, so you're focusing on getting the experience nailed down, marketed, sold, and then selling that on later, sort of like the Starbucks sort of way, I suppose. Okay, interesting. That's great. Excellent. So, in selling these machines, how are you going to start? How are you going to approach selling these? What's your market strategy, your channel strategy? What are you taking that's going to take? Because still connected machines, expensive connected machines for niche things, it's a hard proposition to get across to consumers. So how are you going to approach this that's going to truly realize the value of your products here? Deepak?
So our approach has been to go commercial first, actually. And the reason for that is that, one, you create the experience, there's a rapid feedback iteration loop, and the commercial market works at a price point where there is room to experiment with some of these things. Also, that creates or seeds the market for the home machine that'll come shortly after that. And then the normal channels, but e-commerce and direct-to-consumer is a good model now. So.
Okay. Alan?
So for us, we've been actually doing what we call experiential marketing for the past 3-4 months. Last Thursday was the first time the company actually announced. We were stealth before that. So going forward, we actually will continue with the experiential marketing event. So basically, these are pop-up stores where people actually can taste tea sample A and B, right? Same tea, one made with Teforia and one with conventional method. So that will basically get people to understand, there's actually a whole bunch of different flavor you're losing out with with current methods. But at the same time, we're launching right now through our website, so we go direct. But at the same time, we're looking at a number of different partnerships that will potentially put our product in front of more customer.
Okay.
And particularly like the retail side, we want to make sure the experience is very crafted, right? And honestly, it doesn't really take that much to do a crafted tea experience. Even like right now, we're doing a demo over that corner. We put a little wooden tray, even a little wooden tray, and you put a little cup on it, and you basically serve it right on the spot, right? That itself is a moment, right? So I think a lot of times people get overcomplicated on some stuff, but at the same time, like we have ambition to do something like a Teforia Reserve, similar to what a Starbucks Reserve would be, right? Because there's so much opportunity to educate the public, or even tea drinker, about what tea is, right? The history of tea, the nuance, the subtleties. So.
Okay, great. Now I've got my 5-minute warning card over here. So are there any questions from the audience that people would like to ask? Any? Over here. Actually, can I bring a microphone over? Actually, let me just.
So she's asking how the tea maker works. So we have a proprietary technology called SIP. It's called, basically stands for Selected Infusion Profile System. So tea is actually very, very complicated. There's like 800 chemical in there, 200 major chemical compounds, right? These chemical compounds actually impart flavor, caffeine, antioxidant, aromas, right? So what we do is actually we'll segment instead of making one single batch of tea, we make multiple little batch of tea, right? And each time we make that little batch, we're fine-tuning the extraction environment, so temperature, water, all that stuff, to pull specific profile. So the net result of the tea that we have is almost like a symphony of flavor. Compared to your conventional method, it's one single pot, one single condition, basically set up to ideally pull one flavor, and typically it's bitterness, right? A lot of times people talk about, I tried green tea, but it's so bitter. Well, because the condition is set up to pull bitterness. Versus what we do actually do a cold brew infusion. You'll taste the umami flavor off the bat. Then after that, very buttery feel, which is impossible to do with the conventional cold brewing method. Then after that, you get a nice balance of dandelion bitterness plus sweetness, right? Because we all know food is all balance. It's all about balance, right? It's not about one single flavor. It's about balance and celebrate of all this different flavor into one single, really enjoyable liquid or meal.
Okay, great. Any more questions out there? You're going to have to raise your hand because it's sort of blinded by the light over here. Okay, I don't think there's any more questions. Okay, so gentlemen, ending up here. Conference is all about connecting, meeting folk, right? This is like 270 people from the most connected machine manufacturers and retailers and everything here. Who here would you most like to connect with that will help your business move forward?
So first of all, I want to say hi to my team. We have a really small team. We have 10 people. And our team really kicks, really awesome team. So I want to just say hi. I won't be here without them. And so far it's been awesome. We've been meeting a lot of people coming over. But the person that I really admire is Howard Schultz. He's one person. The company actually transformed. Before Starbucks, coffee was a nickel. Coffee was free. Now all the coffee drinker in the room is more than happy to pay $3.50, $5 for a cup of tea, of coffee. Hopefully someday tea, right?
Okay.
But I think Howard Schultz is something that I want, ideally, I would like to meet.
Okay, I'm sure they're a couple of blocks away, so we can sure figure that out. Okay, Deepak.
Well, we'd like to meet everyone that wants to go create the next vision of coffee. I mean, there's a future of coffee. Coffee's a 1,000-year-old drink. But there's also tradition. Actually, in Ethiopia, when they make coffee, they roast it immediately, grind it, and brew it. So we're going back to the future in a way. But there's a lot of people here that appreciate tradition and want to create something of value for the future, and we want to work with all of you. So people that can help us distribute and love great coffee.
Okay, great. Gentlemen, thank you so much. Round of applause.
Thank you.